My name is Emily Parker, and I live in a small suburban neighborhood in Austin, Texas. Life had always felt predictable for me. I had a steady job at a local library, a few close friends, and weekends spent wandering through the city parks or reading in my cozy apartment. I was organized, calm, and careful about everything. Change wasn't something I welcomed easily, and I rarely stepped out of my comfort zone. But that was before everything shifted in ways I couldn't have imagined. It all began one chilly autumn morning when I was heading to work. I usually took my time, enjoying the quiet streets and the crisp air, but that morning something was different. I spotted a small dog shivering near a fence. It was a golden retriever puppy, covered in mud and clearly lost. Without thinking, I knelt down and coaxed him with soft words. The puppy wagged his tail hesitantly and allowed me to pick him up. I decided to bring him home until I could find his owner. Naming him Cooper felt natural. His presence brought warmth to my apartment, and his playful antics started breaking the rigid patterns of my life. I realized I had never experienced the sense of joy that comes from taking care of someone entirely dependent on me. My friends noticed it too. "You're smiling more than ever, my friend Sarah said when we met for coffee one evening. It's like you've discovered a new side of yourself." I smiled, not fully understanding it myself. Cooper's arrival had made me more spontaneous. I started taking him on long walks, exploring parts of the city I had ignored for years. We visited the lake, wandered through quiet neighborhoods, and even stumbled upon a tiny hidden bookstore that quickly became my favorite spot. Life felt fuller, richer, and unexpectedly exciting. Then one day, something extraordinary happened. While at the bookstore, I met a man named Daniel Reed. He was tall, with kind eyes and an easy smile that immediately made me feel comfortable. Daniel owned a small cafe nearby, and we struck up a conversation about books and our favorite authors. I couldn't remember the last time I had felt such an effortless connection with someone. Over the next few weeks, we kept bumping into each other, sometimes at the cafe, sometimes at the bookstore, and occasionally while taking our morning walks. Daniel wasn't just friendly. He was genuinely interested in knowing me. He asked about my life, my dreams, and even about Cooper. I found myself sharing thoughts and feelings I had never expressed to anyone before. Slowly, I started to realize that my life had been missing this kind of emotional closeness. I had been living cautiously, keeping my emotions tucked away, and now I was starting to feel things deeply: joy, excitement, and yes, even vulnerability. One rainy afternoon, Daniel invited me to his cafe for a quiet chat. As the rain tapped gently on the windows, we talked for hours. I laughed, I shared stories, and for the first time in my life, I didn't worry about how I appeared to others or whether I was too much for someone to handle. Daniel listened without judgment, his presence calm and reassuring. By the time I left, I felt a mixture of exhilaration and nervousness. I had never been like this before, open, vulnerable, and undeniably drawn to someone in a way that made my heart race. Over the next month, our friendship deepened. Daniel had a gentle way of encouraging me to step out of my comfort zone. He invited me to small community events, art galleries, and even a local hiking trail I had avoided for years. Each experience was new, thrilling, and somehow made me feel alive in ways I hadn't imagined possible. Cooper, of course, loved joining us on hikes and would happily frolic ahead while Daniel and I walked together. It was during these moments that I realized life didn't have to be predictable to be fulfilling. One evening, as we sat by the lake watching the sunset, Daniel turned to me and said, "Emily, I feel like I've known you longer than I actually have. There's something about you, something real and kind that's rare." I felt a warmth spread through me. For a long time, I had avoided letting anyone in too closely, fearing disappointment or rejection. But Daniel's words and presence made me feel safe. For the first time, I allowed myself to hope for something more than routine, something more than solitude. Just when I thought life couldn't get any more surprising, an unexpected challenge appeared. Cooper suddenly fell ill. The vet said it was a severe infection, and he needed immediate care and treatment. I was terrified. I had never been responsible for someone in such a critical condition before, and seeing him in pain was unbearable. Daniel stayed by my side throughout the ordeal, offering support, comforting words, and even taking time off work to help me care for Cooper. Those days were emotionally draining, but they also revealed a side of me I had never seen before: resilience, determination, and an overwhelming capacity to love. I stayed by Cooper's side, never leaving the hospital until he was stable. And when he finally started recovering, I felt an immense sense of relief and gratitude. Daniel squeezed my hand and said, "You're stronger than you think, Emily. You've never been like this before, and I'm proud of you." Cooper's recovery marked a turning point in my life. I realized that fear and caution had kept me from experiencing the full spectrum of emotions life had to offer. I had always thought of myself as someone who needed control and routine, but the love and connection I now had with Daniel, with Cooper, and even with the people around me taught me that life's beauty often comes from unpredictability and vulnerability. In the months that followed, Daniel and I continued building our bond. We shared quiet mornings at the cafe, evenings by the lake, and countless adventures with Cooper. I started volunteering at the local animal shelter, inspired by my experience with Cooper and the desire to help animals in need. I reconnected with old friends, made new ones, and even took up painting, a hobby I had abandoned in college. One Sunday morning, Daniel surprised me with a picnic at the very lake where we had first shared that long conversation. The air was crisp, the sun was warm, and Cooper happily chased ducks in the water nearby. Daniel looked at me, his eyes filled with sincerity, and said, "Emily, I've never met anyone like you. You've grown, you've loved, and you've opened your heart in ways that inspire me every day. I can't imagine my life without you in it." I felt tears welling up. I had never imagined feeling this way, so alive, so connected, and so deeply understood. "Daniel, I feel the same," I whispered. "I've never been like this before, and it's all because of you and Cooper, and this life that I've finally allowed myself to embrace." From that day forward, life in Austin felt like a beautiful, ever-changing adventure. I no longer feared unpredictability. I welcomed it. I realized that the greatest growth comes from stepping into the unknown, opening your heart, and embracing love, friendship, and compassion fully. My life had been transformed by a small, lost puppy, a kind-hearted man, and the willingness to let go of fear. I had discovered a version of myself I never knew existed, one that could love fearlessly, feel deeply, and find joy in the smallest of moments. And though life would continue to bring challenges and surprises, I knew that I had the strength, resilience, and heart to face them.